Let's get into this. And you know what? Today I'm going to paint my nails so I don't feel like my brain is rotting.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Is it me or are a lot of men acting and looking like sissies these days?
You are kidding me. That's how this starts. And I said I was going to paint my nails. You know what? I got my sissy pants on and I got my nail polish. 6 seconds in, 34-minute video, David, get it together. This woman gives me whiplash. I would rather be a sissy than have PTSD. I mean, two things can be true. They are for, no. Look, I did one hand. I'm just gonna let it dry before I do this one.
Women were stronger back then. Men were stronger back then, and they looked it. But look at the...
Oh, now everybody's a sissy now. So you watching this right now? You're such a sissy. And you know what? I love that about you. Thank you so much for spending your sissy time with me right now. This woman has no empathy. And I know she sees that as like weak and because I'm a sissy sitting here with painted nails and my testosterone is low. It's actually quite high. I have the blood test to prove it. It was just anyway, that's not the point. But like, oh God, like does she care about anybody but herself?
They could shoot up, met an unfortunate fate. He was killed. He was stabbed to death by a man that I am going to assume, we won't know because he has not yet been caught.
But yet you're going to say it.
On drugs.
Yeah.
The fact that it was...
I'll see you at episode 9 of Dismantling Hate, and until next time, goodbye. Oh yeah, my nails are done. They look gorgina. It's time for dinner. Bye. Hey, you certified amateur sleuths, it's me, David. Now, okay, here's the deal, bestie. My camera did something weird for this entire flippin' video. So it's like slightly zooming in and out. Pull out your phone, scroll through Instagram, TikTok, like, just so you know, that's what's coming for you. But yeah, Candice Owens, she never disappoints with her idiocy, I think is the word here. So yes, thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, let's get into it. Hello babies and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, hi, my name is David and I am here on episode 8 of Dismantling Hate, the series where I, your host David, looks at some far-right extremism, sometimes some Christian fundamentalist nonsense, some homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia. There's really all kinds of discrimination and hateful stuff out there on the internet, and here on this series we're looking at it together. So like I said, besties, this is episode 8. So if you haven't seen those other ones, the playlist is there. You can go and watch the first 7 episodes. We focused a lot in the first 7 episodes on the YouTube channel called Gays Against Groomers. And but I need a break. I need a break from the Gays Against Groomers. So we're actually going to go back to our roots here, because the first 2 episodes of Dismantling Hate, we were looking at Candice Owens. Now, if you haven't seen those first 2 episodes, or if you don't know who Candice Owens is, there is a TikTok video that went viral about her, oh God, not too long ago, maybe about a year. And it continues to make the rounds. And she's on a stage, and really the only context that you can get from the video is that she's just arguing with a bunch of queer folks, and the queer folks look younger and they look like students, and Candice is on a stage almost as if she's giving like a commencement speech, but yet somehow she's like roasting these kids. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, we're going to look at this video here today called Candice Owens Reacts to Woke College Students. This is on Candice Owens's, Candice Owens's. It's just a mess. This is on her YouTube channel, so obviously I'm not going to be blurring her faces. So besties, one last thing before we get started here is that I don't want you to go to her page and leave her hateful comments or anything like that, even though she may deserve it. We are not here to perpetuate this culture of hate. I may not have Michelle Obama's arms, I have mine, but I do have her attitude, and in fact, when they go low, we go high. So that's what we're going to stay on today. And without further ado, let's get into this. And you know what? Today I'm going to paint my nails so I don't feel like my brain is rotting while we're doing this here together, because yeah, I need something to do so I don't actually lose my mother loving mind. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm going white today. I'm feeling this like black and white fantasy. It's probably backwards, but my sweater here is made for a friend of mine, and it says no God, only fluoride, because we only like participating in false dichotomies when they are what? True. God, even pulling the reference for that, it was some kind of Christian fundamentalist thing of like, if you believe in Jesus, you don't need fluoride, or like there's too much fluoride in the water and that's why you don't believe in God or something like that. So it was a running joke for a while, and then my friend screen printed me this little what? There's no hood. What is it? A sweater? It's a sweater. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time. I also have self-tanner on, and I'm hoping I don't sweat too much. So I'm also hoping to distract myself here. We're going white. We're going with the Opie lacquer. And yeah, let's just get down to brass tacks. We're going to stop talking about it. We're just going to do it. I'm not ready or mentally prepared to hear the voice of Candice Owens. So let's go.
Or are a lot of men acting and...
Oh, God.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Is it me or... are a lot of men acting and looking like sissies these days?
You are kidding me. That's how this starts. And I said I was going to paint my nails. You know, sometimes Jesus, Sky Daddy, whoever you think is really out there just putting things to. I'm really trying not to swear. But you know what? I got my sissy pants on and I got my nail polish. I'm so that this is okay. It doesn't. Yeah. 6 seconds in, 34-minute video. David, get it together.
I don't know if it's just because I'm pregnant with a boy and I do tend to be a little more aggressive, but I feel like
there are so many friggin' problems. Oh, I feel so bad for that child. When was this published? Is this child out now? Probably. Good God.
I could beat up a lot of men today. When I look.
Why is that? Okay, you know what? Am I even gonna have time to paint my friggin' nails here? So could I? Could I? Probably. It's not specific to men. I could beat up people who are weaker than me. Period. If I'm a strong it doesn't have anything to do with gender. Fuck.
Plus, later on in the show, it has been exactly 1 year since I put on the White Lives Matter shirt with Kanye West at Paris Fashion Show. So we are going to put that on rewind and reflect. What did I learn from all of that? All that and more today coming up on Candice Owens.
I don't want to hear her awful music, but her promos do look good. She got money, girl. This woman gives me whiplash. This is ridiculous that this is just how some people... Anyway, whatever.
All right, let's start with the facts. There have been significant reductions in testosterone levels observed over time.
I know that's right.
In one study conducted in 2007, they observed that testosterone decreased by about 22% when comparing 1985 levels to those from 2002. That is significant, 22%.
Sure.
In another study that was conducted in 2021, researchers found a roughly 25% decrease in testosterone levels between 1999 and 2016. That is a tremendous decrease in testosterone levels. So there can be no doubt that your grandfather and his father had higher testosterone levels than you, assuming that you are a male living in today's society. So why is that? I don't know why. I won't be able to answer that. A lot of people have their own theories. Some people think it's the food. Some people think it's the things that are being sprayed on the crops. Other people have other theories.
Things being sprayed on the crops and food would be the same thing? No? And how much do you want to bet that it's going to be because we're just sissies? That's so funny. But why is being a sissy necessarily a bad thing too? Like, I will gladly take that. I'm sitting up here in my custom screen printed sweater on like the 20th floor with the air conditioning going and like the lights are on and I'm painting my nails and I just did a hair treatment today and like, sure. Call me a sissy, girl. Like, I don't care. The masculinity that I have as a person is not fragile to be like shaken by the fact that somebody's calling me a sissy, because I feel like she's trying to trigger these people into having higher testosterone or like into doing things that imply that they have higher testosterone. I can't really, because I'm not a medical professional either, I can't really comment on like the way that testosterone works in the body, but I can have it from my own personal understanding because I have had my testosterone levels tracked over time because I regularly go for blood work, and it's really cool to see like the chart and things and how it changes. A really big thing that influences your testosterone is your body composition as well. And I have seen my testosterone levels go up tremendously over time with less body fat or with less adipose tissue. Love that, queen. And higher muscle mass. So even like the higher rates of childhood obesity and just obesity in general could be playing into that as well, which kind of comes down to the food. But I have a feeling that all of these things are not what she's going to say.
I'll say is that never became more clear to me than when I was watching a documentary, which I really recommend every person watches. It was on Netflix, but it was amazing. It was called World War II in Color, and they essentially went back and they had all the footage from World War II and just colorized it as they told the story. And they did a very good job. It was apolitical, so apolitical, in fact, that as I was watching this documentary, and I never cry, but I was really boohoo crying watching this, because suddenly you could really see the faces of those individuals, those soldiers, and you cried for the German soldiers, you cried for the American soldiers, you cried for the Japanese soldiers, because it became apparent how young they were. You know, you're talking about men that were 18 years old knowing that they were going to die for their country.
Like, they had higher testosterone, sure, but they also had like a slew of mental health problems and PTSD, etc. So like, would you rather be... Anyway, I think you know where I'm going with that. I would rather be a sissy than have PTSD. I mean, two things can be true. They are for... No. And
no, you're talking about the Japanese young men that were going on suicide missions. Do you imagine that? You are going out and you know that today is going to be the day that you die. It's incomprehensible. And then they told the story of the Battle of Midway, and they honed in on these pilots who were going out and they were flying knowing that they did not have enough fuel to get them back. So you imagine these young American pilots, 18, 19, 20, knowing that they did not have enough fuel to get back.
Like, sure, this is all, it is really sad. And I don't disagree with the last like 20 seconds of what she's been saying. But the fact of the matter is, I know she's appealing to our sense of like sadness, or she's appealing to our vulnerabilities here by like saying we should have higher testosterone levels because of these men who gave their lives supposedly for our freedom. I'm not reducing the impact that people have had, especially those people in the armed forces who gave their lives for our freedom. But I do think there's a conversation to be had about war in general, and something that, yeah, like I don't know. I smell something disgusting coming on from Miss O here, but that's not new. Look, I did one hand and just gonna let it dry before I do this one.
Again, incomprehensible to imagine the bravery that these young men had.
Oh.
Then you think about the women who were sending their sons. I can't imagine sending my son at the age of 18, knowing for certain that he's going to die, right? Women were stronger back then. Men were stronger back then, and they looked it. But look at the...
Oh, now everybody's a sissy now. So you watching this right now? You're such a sissy. And you know what? I love that about you. Thank you so much for spending your sissy time with me right now.
Photos of those 18-year-olds who served in World War II. They look like men, right? You can see their boyish features and their boyish eyes, but they
Shut up, you weirdo.
look bigger than the 18-year-olds that we are producing today.
What? How are they?
Which brings me to something that I do every year, multiple times a year. I visit college campuses, and
No.
I just want to give myself a pat on the back for being able to stand there and to do it right now.
I bet you friggin' do.
Especially, I am 8 months pregnant, having to sit into this room and to deal with people, not people who are going out knowing that they don't have enough fuel to get home, going out knowing that they're going to die for their country, but people that think it's an act of bravery to have to listen to a conservative speak. Oh my...
The way that she's talking, and I know snowflake is going to come out of her mouth here really soon, and this is going to be like woke speak, etc. So fun. Oh God, I hate it so much, but like it's entertaining. And I feel like we need to know what makes these conservative alt-right people tick in order to take them down sounds threatening, but in order to extinguish their discriminatory ideologies. That's what I want to say.
God, I feel so sad for these people. How am I going to be able to sit here and listen to a conservative speak? It always makes me angry, actually, when I see the individuals, the adults, the young adults that we are producing today, because I think about that. I think about the past, which is so recent, really, in our American history, our very short American history. And then I compare them to these individuals who I speak in front of, and then they get the courage to ask me a question. They stand up and they try to have what they believe is their Martin Luther King moment.
Oh my God.
Say something strong and assertive to Candice Owens. It's going to be, I have a dream speech. It happens over and over again. Well, yesterday I visited a campus up in Albany, New York, and as was to be expected, I had a very short fuse with these children because I'm not here to raise you. I don't know why you turned out this way.
What do you mean you're not here to raise you? Like, what's the attempt of you having your own podcast then? Why are you going to these college campuses to potentially be inspiring? That's usually the point of why people bring in speakers on college campuses. You are, in effect, taking on that, like, not parental role, but you should be inspiring. You should have an aspect of, like, child rearing. You know what I mean, I think. Who cares?
I don't know why you think that it's an act of bravery to ask a conservative a question or to insult a conservative. But I was required to answer these individuals for about 30 minutes, and it was just incredible how many people from the queer community had something to say to me. Take this young woman as an example.
Why did she just yell, queer community? All right, she's talking to me, and if you're watching this, probably you too. I only have 2 nails done on this side, so it's probably gonna... She better not mess up my lines with her homophobia.
What do you have to say to the trans students on this campus who actively feel victimized by your presence here today? Additionally, you just pointed out that this man detransitioned, but earlier in your speech...
Guys, I want to hear her. Go ahead. What do I have to say? Just the question, please. No speech. What is the question?
What do you have to say to the trans students on this campus who feel actively victimized by your presence here?
Life's tough. Get a helmet, man. I'm too pregnant for this. Next question.
Life's tough. Get a helmet, man. So I think that does sound ableist to me. This sounds pretty consistent with ableism. Yeah, but that's like, it's not surprising. We know Candice Owens enough at this point, but But that also, okay, here, let me say this, is that I think, this is a whole other conversation, but usually when you are speaking on a college campus, shouldn't you be educated? You know? I wonder what education Candice Owens has. And I think that the outlier thing here is that most people who are educated aren't okay, so I don't have any research to back this up. It's all completely anecdotal. But for me personally, I find that the more educated a person is, the more likely they are to be liberal, because a lot of liberal ideologies do stem from this idea of research, of peer-reviewed information, because a lot of left ideas are provable, and there's research and you can tell. But it's hard for the alt-right, people like Candice Owens, to make their points beyond this kind of behavior, right? Life's tough, get a helmet. I'm an asshole and you just have to, sorry, that squeak is really loud. She's like, I'm just an asshole and you have to deal with it. Get a helmet, you snowflake. That's the kind of behavior that this person has. So like, why are we taking this person seriously if that's how they answer a question? Shouldn't you be able to answer a question logistically? Shouldn't you be able to answer a question with like enough composure? If you're too pregnant for this, why are you out here? And it also kind of, yeah, my lines look so bad on that hand. I don't think it's Candice Owens' fault though. Candice Owens' fault though. It's interesting. Yeah. If you're too pregnant to do this, then why are you here? She probably needs the money. This is all my opinion, but you wouldn't be out here doing this if you didn't need the money. I don't think that she's out here on a personal mission to like make the world a better place. But I think she's masquerading under that. But I think it's self-serving. I think she's like a shock and insult comic, and I think she's playing a character in order to get attention and money. And it is working. And now I'm even sitting here, I'm like, I'm giving her attention, but maybe I'm illuminating the fact here a little bit more to you, the viewer, and potentially anybody who comes in contact with my content. Is that I don't want to say that she's not a real person, but I think this personality that she is sharing with us on camera is like a caricature of a fictional person. I don't know if I believe it. I think she's out here playing a character in order to get attention, and it's working. Like if I was in that audience and I heard her say life's tough, get a helmet, I would be booing her. I would be going, ah, like Bellinger here, who's probably, I don't know. It's all, I'm not as upset though. I'm not sweating and my nails look pretty good. So I'm going to do the double coat on my left hand, and we're going to put our helmets on and keep going. Oh, there's people clapping. I guess it would make sense because I don't know if I would show up to an event like this for Candice Owens. I would probably watch the YouTube video after, but I wouldn't go and support her in real life because it's called the Live Free Tour. Huh.
My goodness. Seriously, somebody just give out free hugs or something, and then somebody give out free hugs. I can't be your mommy, okay? I'm too pregnant. I can't be your mommy. Over and over again, I was being asked to be their mommies. They want to talk about their feelings.
You're the one who said that. You're the one who said that.
Things. They don't have any facts. They just want to talk about how they feel, and they're coming to these college campuses to be coddled. That's what's going on. People are spending upwards to $60,000 per year to be coddled.
I don't know the American education system, but I didn't pay 60 grand a year for my university education. I think I pulled out 2 bachelor degrees for that 60 grand. I don't know. That's wild if that's how it is in the US.
Yes, identities and the things that they want to say. There's another example. So that girl was just victimized by my presence. What do I have to say? I'm victimized by you just being here, holding a mic and speaking. Well, this woman was much bolder in her assertion that she knew exactly who she was. Take a listen.
As a non-binary person, what do you have to tell me about my identity? Because I know for a fact I'm not confused.
Okay, next question. Great statement. That's a statement. That's a statement. Okay, you know your identity. You're not confused. Congratulations, sweetheart. Thank you very much for your statement. What was she looking for there? What did she expect me to say?
And like the misgendering of this person too, because they specifically said that they were non-binary. This is the clip right here that I saw on TikTok. I don't know, maybe if you've seen this one as well. Yeah, she is definitely playing on the semantics. Like the question this person asked wasn't necessarily a question, but it also was, like, by linguistic terms, was it a question? No. But did Candice Owens understand what the question was? Absolutely she did. She's not dumb. But yeah, she just wanted to make a scene. But I think the hard part, and like saying that people need courage to come and ask a conservative a question, yeah, because it can be really hard and it can be really upsetting to engage with a person like this. And if I was a person on a college campus, I would probably want to try and ask one of these questions, but I would get really nervous walking up and like preparing myself, and even just getting out the question can be a lot. It's anxiety inducing for sure. And that's a part of why I want to make these videos, is like, we can sit here and you can sit down with your queer them-ma, that's me, them-ma, grandma, but they, them, you get it. You can sit down with somebody who's looking at this and we can talk ourselves through this nonsense. So when you find it in real life, it can be a little bit more, it won't require so much bravery for you to challenge these kinds of people, because Candice Owens didn't have anything to say to that in a logistic way. She was only able to like get out of that by making an excuse that the linguistical topography implied that it was a statement and not a question. It's like a red herring. It's not actual. It's just idiocy. It's what's the word? Asinine. This is very asinine.
Why would I care? If she's so confident in exactly who she is, why is she snarling at me to stand up and tell me that? Go live your best life. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I mean that.
No, you
then,
don't.
Of course, came a guy who asked a very long question, because like I said, they all think that they're having a brave moment that's going to circulate on the internet and they're going to be seen as a hero to the queer community. And he even prepared a special shirt for me to wear.
Oh,
yes,
God.
you're not going to see it in this clip, but underneath his sweatshirt, he did some art. And he wore a shirt that said F you, and he had one of his friends recording it, because it's so great to do artwork when Candice Owens comes to speak, and to hide an F you shirt underneath your sweatshirt.
She's just an awful person, like so vindictive and so vile and so hateful. Like it's not new, but oh my God.
Take a listen to what he had to say.
I'm ready.
My question isn't specifically about anything you really said tonight, although I don't really agree with anything you said.
Okay.
I'm proudly part of the LGBTQ community. I've always stood up for my community whenever I needed to. I want to focus specifically on, I've been like listening to you for a little bit just to understand some things. A live stream you did about Pride Month in June on Facebook, because you were no longer allowed on YouTube.
Look at that subtle dig in there. That's funny. But she's on YouTube right now. Maybe live? I don't know.
You were talking about, I actually had the honor of attending that event with a lot of my really close friends. And I found it very perplexing to me how you choose to only focus on the things that are negative when it comes to the queer community.
I'm sorry, when it comes to what community?
The queer community.
Okay.
Do you not realize that people like you and people like the people you're around, and that, you know, continue to have this idea of us, are the reason we feel that we have to be so openly proud of who we are? Your demented homophobic and transphobic rhetoric and rants just further prove our point that we have to fight loudly to be respected.
Oh no, I completely agree with this young person. It is true though, because one of their arguments is like, yeah, the queer people are so loud and why do you have to shove it in our faces? And like exactly what they said, right? It has to be shoved down your faces because you're so overtly awful all the time. If there wasn't anything to fight against, we wouldn't need to be this loud. I'm interested, because this is a good question. Is it a question yet? He's just saying things. I hope there's a question at the end, so she can't escape this one. It's just insane for her to be this hateful while standing 8 months pregnant on a stage. It's very camp.
The reason that LGBTQIA+ suicide rates are so high in this country isn't just because we're part of the community. It's because there are people like you who make us feel like we don't belong. The only LGBTQ agenda we have is...
Okay, is there a question in there or a speech?
Yes.
You gotta ask a question, buddy. I know you wrote this out in your notes, but ask a question. Let's go.
How do you think other people who, with your beliefs, respond?
What university or college is paying to bring this individual there? It's just mind-blowing.
Fact that your hateful and harmful rhetoric costs the lives of queer children every single day, on average, every 45 seconds.
Okay, so this is just going to be a pure boogeyman. You're pretending that someone committed suicide because of Candice Owens. You've got no facts here. You're just going, it's your rhetoric that's causing all of this. So I really wish I could show you here on YouTube what I responded to this young man, but you know how the world works. You are allowed to...
What do you mean you know how the world works? There's policies in place as to not display hateful content. So if you're not able to show that on YouTube, it's crazy to like look at the world and think, I'm not allowed to do, like, YouTube says I can't do this, Instagram says I can't do this, all of these things say I can't do this, and it's their fault. I'm like, again, what is the common denominator between all of this nonsense? It's you, bestie.
Insult. You're even allowed to assault heterosexual people. You're allowed to step to the plate and accuse them of increasing suicide rates absent any data. You can call them demented, you can call them homophobic, you can call them transphobic.
It's not absent of any data. I don't have the data to show you here, but I know it's not nothing. And if I wanted to, I could go in and do it, but it's not that serious because she would just find her way to get out of it too.
Is allowed, but us issuing a rebuttal of any sorts, no, that would be harassment. So if you would like to see what I responded to this young man, you can head over to X or to Daily Wire Plus for the uncensored response.
Huh.
I very much disagreed with all that he said, and I answered him with something that I hope transformed him, but I know didn't, because instead what he opted to do, because he's so horrified by my rhetoric, is he took off his sweatshirt and revealed a shirt, as I said, which read, F you.
Love it.
Kind, accepting. Love is love.
You told the girl before to get a helmet. Where's your helmet now that somebody said F you? That's the most basic insult ever. F you? I can hear that till the cows come home, and it's not going to affect me. But you, oh God, the hypocrisy is hypocrisy. It is, whatever.
All of this to say, it thoroughly depresses me when I visit college campuses today.
Then why are you there?
I see the state of manhood and the state of womanhood. And I hope that you understand why. When you look at these individuals and you see what they deem to be acts of bravery and
And what qualifies you to quantify what is manhood and womanhood? If anything, I think you're the disgrace of womanhood here, tearing people down. But to be honest, it has nothing to do with womanhood because gender doesn't imply as much as these people think it does.
glory, and you weigh it against the heroes of the past. It's depressing. I don't know what's happening with young men and young women, but I do know that we can attribute a lot of it to a crisis in parenting. And if we examined their households, the households that produce these young children, we would get a lot of answers. This is what I've been talking about over and over again. Children need to be raised by stable and strong parents who are not encouraging them to believe that everything that they do is special, that everything that they say is rational. Rather, we need parents to return to actual parenting.
And it's really interesting because I can agree with all of that, but in the opposite direction. I'd be interested to know how Candice Owens grew up. Am I smelling a Candice Owens deep dive coming on here? This is fascinating.
Feels like when I go on college campus, I feel like I am being asked to be everybody's mommies and daddies. And I'm happy to do it. I have a few more stops coming up, one in Buffalo, one in Georgia.
You're not happy to do it. You're literally not.
There will always be protesters. They exist there. In conclusion, I will restate that I don't know what is contributing to the drop in testosterone rates, but I'm observing it absolutely everywhere. And there's no doubt that in the Western world,
But what's to say that these people have lower testosterone? You're kind of false. It's a false equivalency to say that it's the lower testosterone that is creating all of these liberal people. Who's to say that their testosterone is actually lower? You can't really visually look at somebody and be able to figure out what the levels of the hormones they have in their body are. What she is saying is that she is looking at these people and she is saying that she sees less masculinity, and she's associating masculinity with testosterone, which isn't a completely outlandish claim, but it's not always completely related in the ways that she's making it sound here. Okay, so I have my white done. Now I'm gonna go in. Well, I'm gonna let them dry for a second here, and I'll just and then I'm gonna put this matte top coat on because I like matte. We're 11 minutes in. Let's keep going.
We're facing a crisis of a shortage of masculinity. We don't need less masculinity, far be it from what the feminists have told us about toxic masculinity. We need more of it. And that's all I have to say about that. Aisha had found herself in an unplanned pregnancy and wasn't sure what to do. She searched for pregnancy services and found a preborn network clinic.
Whoa. This is interesting because normally I would skip by the ads, but this seems to be an ad we might want to pay attention to. It says preborn help save, sorry, my mic is in the way, help save 10,000 babies from abortion. Again, it makes sense. We would understand why Candice Owens would have this outlook, but it's crazy to see her ideologies come through in even the ads that she takes. Wow. Help save 10,000 babies from abortion, because these people think that with less people, well, they know, in fact, that having less humans in the world participating in the corporate machine, that capitalism will fall. And capitalism is exactly the structure of which people like Candice Owens build their ideologies on. So of course abortion is bad to these people because less people means less money and less exploitation of human beings in general.
Was counseled, supported, and offered a free ultrasound. After seeing her baby and hearing the heartbeat, she cried. She was certain that she would keep her baby forever.
Hi, Hi, I'm Aisha,
God.
and I just wanted to share my journey with how the clinic has helped me come along.
You know what though? Like, Aisha, your story is completely valid. And if this clinic helped you to keep your baby or not keep your baby, or if whatever decision you came to you were happy with, good for you, babes. I'm happy for you, because you should be able to make your own choice in whatever way you see fit. The problem becomes when that choice is taken away, because we're only highlighting one end of the story here.
This way. I just moved to LA to pursue a career, found myself going through an unplanned pregnancy. I was debating whether or not I was even pregnant, so I did an online search.
Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna just mute this and let her story play out, because honestly, I don't care about it. Her experience is valid, and I'm glad she was able to get help, and I'm glad she was able to make a decision that she was happy with. Kumbaya, whatever. But don't be perpetuating this idea that she would have been awful if she chose to terminate her pregnancy, because that is not the reality. We should not be judging people for the decisions they make when it comes to their own bodily autonomy. And okay, it does absolutely connect, because somebody who's pregnant should have the same amount of choice of what to do, the same way that somebody should be able to make the choice about their gender identity and their gender expression. And it's not to say that the choice of whether to terminate a pregnancy is the same as a choice of your gender. You don't really necessarily, I don't believe personally, you have a choice. Your love saves a life. You don't have a choice about your gender, I don't believe, but you have a choice to live authentically in that gender, if that makes sense. It is a distinction with a difference. All right.
Baby girl who's smart, beautiful, and full of life. Often she visits that same clinic and receives free clothes, diapers, and more.
It's great. It's great that these people are supported. Awesome. Power to ya. But stop demonizing the opposite experience.
For your generous support, Preborn writes 200 stories just like these every single day.
To perpetuate the propaganda that that's the only morally proper option. It's nonsense.
$28 can be the difference between the life and death of a child. When a mother meets
That's it right there. That's it right
via
there.
an ultrasound and hears their heartbeat, it's a divine connection and doubles a baby's chance at life.
Not always. It's not always a divine connection. Like, I don't have a uterus, so I don't necessarily have the ability to have an opinion here, but I can support everyone. Everyone's choices when it comes to their pregnancy should be validated. And it bothers me that we're only validating one side.
Let's join together and help mothers in crisis choose life. All gifts are tax deductible and 100% of your donation will go to
Wait, I blacked out there for a second. Did she say Christ just now? Ugh.
saving babies. You just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can
Pound 250 baby. That hits the ear wrong, wouldn't you say?
preborn.com/Candice. That's preborn.com/Candice. Okay, now it's time for some topics du jour.
Topics du jour. I love that, queen. Oh, God.
So it's the 1-year anniversary since I put on the White Lives Matter shirt in Paris during the Paris Fashion Week next to Kanye West. And when I saw these memories popping up on my phone and on my Facebook, I was like, oh, we got to talk about that, because it is without question easily the most iconic thing that I've ever done in my career, the most viral thing I've ever done in my career. And that obviously is due to the fame level of Kanye. Well, now he goes by
I don't know if it's necessarily the fame level of Kanye West. It's probably also attributed to the nonsense that are these t-shirts. Ugh.
And reflecting on that time, it was just so crazy, because I could have never imagined the response that we got to putting on these shirts of saying something that was so obvious. And reflecting upon just that period, first and foremost, me being postpartum.
I don't know if it's just, if I really want to get into this. And like, sure, it is obvious. And if we're playing semantics here, do white lives matter? Yes. Do all lives matter? Yes. Do blue lives matter? Yes. But those lives have not been discriminated against. Those lives have not been threatened simply for being white or simply for being blue. There is a whole set of discrimination and racism that people have experienced if they are in communities like that. So for me, white lives matter. It feels gross to me. And I can say that because I'm a white person, and inherently that shirt was in support of my life. But the thing is, I've never felt like my life didn't matter because of the color of my white skin. And I don't think I don't think everybody else can say that. I don't think many black people can say that. I don't know if every black person can say that. My life hasn't been threatened because of my white skin, so I don't need support in that specific way. It's taking away from the voices of marginalized communities who need the uplifting. It's not me. I don't need it. It's weird that you're focused on this. But again, she's a caricature of a human being that she's playing right now. It was done for attention, and she got it, and it's working.
Literally the entire time that I was on this trip, I was still breast pumping, I still dealing with all the emotions of that. And then you get a phone call from someone.
It's funny because she's sad fishing here and talking about breast pumping and emotions and that. But like, where's this attitude of like, I'm not being your mom and life is hard, get a helmet. Where's her helmet here when she was breast pumping and being racist? You know, like it's very make it make sense.
Like, yay. And he asks you whether or not you will get on a plane overnight to come to Paris. And I kid you not, when I tell you this was a last minute trip, I mean to say that we decided to book the tickets at 9 p.m. the night before. My assistant woke up to a text from me, which I think I sent to her at 11 p.m., which said you need to be on the 11 a.m. plane. So you can imagine the scramble that she had to do packing to get to Paris and I had to do packing to get to Paris and to make it in time for his show.
Respectfully, who cares?
Was happening the next day. Had no idea what he had in mind. He had asked me to just be there. And then when I walked in, he held up the shirt and said, will you wear this? And there was no conversation about it. There was absolutely no conversation about it because I think
Red flag city, Mary. If you would, I would not, there would not be a single person on this, well, maybe Lady Gaga. No, there would not be a single person that I would get on a plane for with no context. It just wouldn't be, but I would need, it's critical thinking, right? We're lacking critical thinking skills. And again, we're not surprised by that, but that's, yeah.
Both understood that it had to be done. You know, often on this show, I talk about the natural equilibrium of the world and how I believe that when the pendulum swings one way, it will necessarily have to swing the other way.
Yeah.
And when he held up the shirt, I understood it was one of those moments. It was one of these moments where we had to commit ourselves to swinging the pendulum. I mean, the madness that had ensued because of Black Lives Matter, the lies that were being told, people saying that this is really just about equality and we're saying Black Lives Matter because it should. And the phrase doesn't mean anything. It doesn't imply that Black.
It's really insane to me that she is a part of this community and she's still speaking out against it. I mean, it's not that surprising because we've looked at gays against groomers. There are queer people, or rather there are gay people in particular that are quite transphobic. So it's not surprising, but it is really mind blowing. It is crazy. Yeah.
Lives matter more. And so I knew
it's not that they matter more. It's that the white lives haven't been under discrimination. If the white lives are the one perpetrating most of the issues, I'm sorry, but they are. The white colonizers coming over and engaging in centuries of institutionalized racism are why Black Lives Matter is a phrase that is okay and White Lives Matter is not.
The artistic and the creative direction behind what Kanye wanted to do.
Yeah, that's artistic and creative direction right there. I'm pausing so much, but I mean, this is why you're here. This is why you're why. It's just what?
Test the theory. You know, if people genuinely aren't bothered, and this isn't about a movement of people that are trying to make white people beneath somehow.
I smell gaslighting. Why does she care so much about white people and not about gay people? You know? Weird.
Beneath Black people, which we saw examples of them in the streets, bowing down, shining their shoes. I mean, what took place in this country after George Floyd was sickening.
Oh, that's gross. I hate that she just said that. Oh, that's really upsetting. That's even more upsetting than that queer stuff from the beginning. I guess because I wasn't thinking about the specific loss of life of one human being. But that's really sad.
It was reverse racism, or as I like to call it, racism. It's just racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. And as people were told that they were made to feel guilty, that they had to be guilty for being born whites, that they had to account for the sins of their great ancestors.
It's really interesting. Well, first of all, it's not back that many generations that those sins took place. It potentially could be your one grandfather. Hell, it could even be your dad. or your parent, like one parent, one generation away. But this is definitely interesting, because if you're so fragile that you think identifying a set of discrimination, and if you're on the side of the discriminator, that you would take it personally, and it really just implies a lack of emotional maturity to assign the responsibility to yourself when you just in fact are a part of the community that perpetuated that. But how did she get here when she's not even part of that community? Maybe one of her parents is white? Like, I guess it doesn't really matter, but how does she feel the need to speak out against Black Lives Matter? And yeah, God, what's going on here? What's going on? I just finished my nails. They're drying now, so I have to not flail around or else I'll mess them up. But they look pretty good. I'm real happy with them.
People that had never owned slaves were now somehow being made to feel guilty about slavery by people who were never slaves.
Well, you don't need to feel guilty about it, but you do need to be cognizant of it, because if you're not aware of history, you're bound to repeat it. And it's people like this that perpetuate these harmful ideas that put us farther in the direction of that potentially happening again. And that's really harmful. So that's why we're here talking about it.
This wasn't some great reckoning that we saw with Black Lives Matter movement. Highly what was being done was the highest levels of fraud that was being committed.
Ugh.
And my documentary that we had created was meant to expose all of that. And so by putting on a simple shirt that said White Lives Matter, we were testing the theory, because truly, if you believe that that's implied, then this shirt wouldn't upset you. But of course it did upset people, because how dare you say that? How dare you say that white lives matter? I remember the next morning.
Because what's the word? There's a word. I forget what the word is. It's like you are making a joke of it. Nobody's saying that white lives don't matter, like all lowercase letters, but saying white lives matter, that's reactionary to this movement of Black Lives Matter, right? Nobody's saying that white lives don't matter, but what they're saying is white lives don't need the support of a movement of White Lives Matter with capitals. You know what I mean when I say capitals? Like white, like the W has the capital W, like it's a title, it's a movement, and not just the words White Lives Matter in lowercase levels, like just something casual you would say. Because of course, all lives matter. Of course, we know that. But they're playing on the semantics here, because we don't need a movement called White Lives Matter. I would run so far away from that movement. Ugh.
Waking up in Paris and just the phone going off like crazy.
I mean, that's what you get for waking up in Paris.
All of these headlines. And I remember Ye called me. He was staying in a different hotel than me that was just one block up. And he said, "So, how are you feeling?" And I said, "I don't really know what to feel, processing just the world, processing this." And he said, originally I wasn't going to say anything because I wanted the shirt and the art to speak for itself. And I didn't want to answer the question, what did you mean?
Is that really art? I don't think that's art. I mean, it could be considered, I guess, like performance art, but God, that's boring. It's not really,
White Lives Matter. Why would you wear this shirt? What's being implied here when you say White Lives Matter? But then he said, now I think it's important to answer the question. Why did you wear a shirt that said White Lives Matter? The answer is simple, he said, because they do. It's just such a Kanye way of processing everything. Yeah, because they do. White lives matter as well. And that should have been abundantly clear. And it was so simple and in front of us. Anyways, it's one of the greatest memories that I have throughout my entire career. I'm grateful that Kanye included me in that show. I'm grateful for the madness that followed it. I'm grateful that we created such an iconic moment and such an iconic shirt. And I could.
You're grateful for all of the madness that ensued, but half of your brand is overreacting to the reactions from the woke left. Like, that's, you complain about it, but it's literally what keeps your career afloat. She's a shock and insult comic. I will double down on that forever.
When I say that I have that exact shirt hanging up in my gym today,
gross,
because it's something that obviously for the rest of my life I will never forget. And in conclusion, in case people forgot in all of the Black Lives Matter rhetoric, that also, yes, White Lives Matter, because they do. All right, guys, moving on. An activist poet has been randomly stabbed to death in front of his girlfriend after they attended a wedding together.
Jesus.
His name was Ryan Carson, and he died at the age of 32 years old. It's tremendously sad. I want to say that off the bat, but I will.
Where is this going? Like, this is insane. Like, this is the most unhinged news channel, like, dystopian thing I've ever freaking watched. It's highly entertaining, but for all the wrong ways.
Why this particular stabbing has political significance and why people are discussing Ryan Carson's death so much today. Ryan Carson, allegedly, according to Andy No, was an Antifa member. What we can tell you for sure is that Ryan Carson, just like the young man that we showed you yesterday in Philadelphia, was without question a leftist activist. And bizarrely, just like the young man from Philadelphia that we discussed on yesterday's show, he also was an activist in terms of trying to establish safe havens for drug addicts and for homeless people. Ryan specifically wanted throughout New York City to establish safe injection sites for drug addicts.
God, she just hates everyone. Honestly, like, who does this woman like? God, we're just from one rant to the next here. Safe consumption sites are important. They are necessary. They are life-saving. They are a part of society that need to be in place in order for things, in order just for, like, everybody needs to feel safe. Even if, like, I'm sorry, even if you're on drugs, even if you're a drug addict, you should, in my opinion, in my humble ass opinion here, because you know what, you can't forget I'm just some lady here with a microphone and too many opinions. Like, everybody deserves to feel safe, even if you're making decisions that arguably are not within your best interest. I understand it. Like, it just, the studies show in there needs to be the decriminalization. I'm just constantly on my soapbox here. We need to decriminalize the use of drugs. We need to only criminalize, I think, in my opinion, only the crimes of violent offenders. I don't think that people should be penalized for using drugs. I think they should have a safe space to go. It's life-saving. There are studies that come out of the countries that have decriminalized all kinds of drugs, of how the use of drugs and the frequency of drug-related crimes goes down. Safe consumption sites are necessary. They should be funded. They should exist. And I hate that this is where we're going. And, like, sorry, bars are safe consumption sites. And I'll double down on that. Like, if I'm an alcoholic, I can walk out across the street from me. There's bars in every direction of my apartment, and I can sit down where it's regulated, and there are structures in place that mandate who can serve what and what I can consume and how I can appear and act in the space in order to be continued to serve. Bars are safe consumption sites. How is that of somebody who is consuming alcohol different than somebody who is consuming a different drug that could do so in a safe consumption site, right? People are going to be consuming those drugs either way. Why wouldn't you want to create a space where that could be done to reduce harm for these individuals that are going to be doing it in either way? Oh, this is upsetting.
Take a listen to Ryan in his own words.
Hello, my name is Ryan Thorson Carson, and I'm a political organizer and policy analyst from Brooklyn, New York. Like many people, my life has been shaped by the opioid epidemic that has ravaged our country. I've lost family and friends to the epidemic, including my best friend to a lethal heroin overdose in 2016. My story is unfortunately common. For many, the opioid crisis hits close to home. It's time to focus on new strategies to fight back. One strategy is safe injection facilities. The facilities are a part of a harm reduction approach toward drug use.
Absolutely.
They provide sterile injection equipment, information about drugs and basic health care.
It's education.
Rehabilitation referrals, access to medical staff.
I agree with all of it.
Crucially, counseling.
Yes.
So this is weird. It's a weird thing to take up as a platform, in my opinion. We now have two young
How is that a weird thing to take up in your opinion when so much of the world is struggling with an opioid addiction? Good God.
This young Ryan Carson and this Philadelphia man.
It's not appropriate timing, but that Ryan guy, he was kind of cute. Yeah, it's probably the liberal nature of him, because even if you're Republican and hot, you're not hot anymore. Anyway, not the point.
Kruger, who are really focused on making sure that drug addicts feel more at home, right? That the system is not coming after drug addicts.
It's harm reduction. Eventually, you will have less drug addicts if they can engage in that in a safer way. How do you not see that? Can you crack a book and look at what? Huh?
As a quick update to Josh Kruger, who, remember, he was fatally shot in his own home. Police are also investigating whether or not that was drug related. So he himself may have somehow been involved in drug crimes.
I don't know any of the context of the story that she's saying right now, but she's just saying that this person it's kind of like it's creating a false binary here of like, this community is responsible for this. So she's saying that this Ryan guy with the curly front bangs is now somehow responsible for the death of this other person, because Ryan is saying that drugs are great and drug addicts should feel at home, even though drug addicts murdered this guy. Like, it's just not trying to pit people against each other. I just messed up one of my nails.
We'll have to do an update on that story when the police have their conclusions. But with this guy, Ryan Carson, it is strange to me, as it always is strange to me, that there are people that are trying to convince you that homeless people and drug addicts are really good people, right? Despite the fact that they're on the streets, and I have spoken out against this tons of.
Why can't they be good people? Why can't they be good people? It honestly, like, it's so upsetting to me. Like, my situation, my life, like, I could have been on the street. I could have been on the street. I could have been homeless. Like, there's nothing at some point. It is a statistical, unfortunately, because we live in countries that don't support safe consumption, or at least feels that way. A lot of people on this right side of the political spectrum don't support safe consumption sites or affordable housing acts or anything like this. It's just, it's statistics. I'm not a better person because I have a home. I just have a home. Like, it shook out for me that way. Sure, I participated in making decisions that helped support me have a home, but there are so many points in my life where it could have went in the direction of me being more of a drug addict. I would say more because I am effectively addicted to nicotine, not so much anymore, but I don't know if that ever goes away. But I understand addiction, and it is just at some point the luck of the draw of who you're around, your extenuating circumstances. You're not about to sit here and blame all homeless people for being unhoused. It's just, God, that's upsetting. It's not, the onus is not 100% on each individual. I think that's what I'm trying to say here. Sure, there are decisions that come down to the fact that it can be due to personal responsibility, but it's not 100% these people's fault. I fully believe that.
I've been open about the fact that I have drug addicts in my own family that live on the streets. The idea that these people are just on some bad times is completely ludicrous. It is dishonest, and it is a narrative that is going to get people killed.
No, how does what? I think she's projecting. She probably has a really bad relationship with these people here. How can you blame people for like that? How is it getting them killed? How is it getting them killed? It's like, it's the same argument of like abstinence is sex education. We're just going to ignore it, and it doesn't work.
Okay? It's going to get people killed. These people are desperate. They will do anything for drugs. If you gave them $2,000
because they have a physical addiction or a physical dependency to these drugs, and it's just why? Is she not aware of like these Scandinavian countries that have completely eliminated these things because of their more liberal human rights policies on how to support people in these situations?
a month to spend on rent. They would choose to live on the streets and spend every single penny on the next high.
Well, no, their physical dependency would require them effectively to spend their money on their next high. But if they had the choice to both be high and either be on the street or be in a home, everybody's going to choose to be in a home. Because the drugs come first in the priorities of somebody who has a physical dependency on an opioid, of course they're going to spend, and it's just happenstance that then all that money is gone. But if they had a never-ending amount of money, of course they would live in a home. They're not making the choice to live on the street. It's a false dichotomy.
That is the reality. The majority of people that you see that are homeless on the streets and that are screaming at themselves are either high themselves, mentally unstable, or both. And so,
like, what's your point?
Wanted to be a hero to drug addicts and to people that we find that are wandering the streets, who want to create a safe haven for those that are suffering from drug addiction.
Of course, you would be experiencing some kind of psychosis if you are somebody who is struggling with an opioid addiction or any other kind of addiction and living on the street. Like I never have before, but I imagine that would accompany, like, you would develop such an amount of mental health struggles. I can't imagine the strain that puts on a human psyche of not living in a home, of living on the street. This woman has no empathy. And I know she sees that as like weak and because I'm a sissy sitting here with painted nails and my testosterone is low. It's actually quite high. I have the blood test to prove it. It was just anyway, that's not the point. But like, oh God, like, does she care about anybody but herself?
They could shoot up, met an unfortunate fate. He was killed. He was stabbed to death by a man that I am going to assume, we won't know because he has not yet been caught.
But yet you're going to say it.
On drugs.
Yeah.
The fact that it was 4 a.m. He was acting erratically on the streets of New York. You can take a look at this video to see what happened. I'll talk you through it in case you're listening to the podcast.
Oh, God.
Viewer discretion advised. What we have here is Ryan and his girlfriend sitting on a bench, and they begin to walk. They were coming back from a wedding at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
And what takes place, and what you can't see, is that this man seems to be kicking something. You can hear it. And Ryan approaches him. His girlfriend stops in her tracks, and Ryan approaches him. Now, according to his friends, this is just the kind of guy that Ryan was. He thought that he could always talk to somebody. One friend shared a story about how he stopped himself from being mugged by just giving the homeless person his money. Well, this is not what happens here.
Wait, is this Ryan? Is this that guy that was... Is this Ryan? Let's go back. Yeah, that's Ryan. Oh, no. I mean, it would be bad for anybody, but oh, no. Okay.
And what takes place and what you can't see is that this man seems to be kicking something. You can hear it. And Ryan approaches him. His girlfriend stops in her tracks, and Ryan approaches him. Now, according to his friends, this is just the kind of guy that Ryan was. He thought that he could always talk to somebody. One friend shared a story about how he stopped himself from being mugged by just giving the homeless person his money. Well, this is not what happens here. You see, the guy approaches Ryan. He threatens him. He tells him that he will kill him. Ryan then begins to defend himself and realizes, obviously, that this is serious. And then Ryan gets stabbed by this man. He is on the street, bleeding out. Jesus. His girlfriend is above him. It looks like she's scared to approach him. She tells another young woman who appears to maybe know the person that just stabbed him to just keep the guy back. Unfortunately, she was not able to save Ryan Carson. Ryan Carson later died. Okay, so he spent his last moments on this earth on that sidewalk. He spent his last moments approaching that individual, likely convinced that he could somehow do something, that he could somehow stop him. And it's just the media depiction of homelessness and crime statistics that's wrong.
No, you're not about to take this one thing. It is horrendous what happened, and it shouldn't have happened. But I don't think, like, what I'm going to say here, I don't know if Ryan would disagree with if he was able to have this conversation. But you can't take, and this isn't specific to this situation, but you can't take one person from a community and use that specific context to paint the entire community that this person belongs to. So you can't take this one version of somebody who is living on the street or it has a drug addiction or an opioid addiction or any kind of addiction and say that that's how all of that kind of people are. It's just, that is discrimination. It's assuming that everybody in that one category or community is the same. And I can't believe that Candice Owens is using the death of this man, Ryan, to perpetuate what Ryan was using his life to try and dismantle. That's really disgusting that she's about to say whatever the hell she's about to say.
That you have no right to be fearful of crazy people.
You can be fearful of somebody who is experiencing psychosis. Nobody didn't say that. It's rational and like that's fine, but you can't then use that to say that everybody's like that because that's not the case.
You see a crazy person, you cross the street, you don't approach them.
It's not a crazy person. Oh my God.
It is a known thing. Take it from me. I was born in New York. I spent 7 years in New York City. That at 4 a.m. in the morning, nothing good can happen in the city. You get inside. You take an Uber. You don't take the subway. You don't approach a homeless man. There was
and now this is the victim blaming, right? Like he shouldn't have approached him. It's his fault. It's really disgusting. It's really disgusting.
Nothing good that happens. No matter how good and fluffy you feel on the inside, no matter how hard you want to virtue signal as a white person that you're not scared of black people, even when they're bleeding.
Oh God, she's the worst.
And acting like they're on drugs and telling you that they're going to kill you. By the way, it should be obvious by now that this is why the Marine who took out that homeless person on the subway is a hero, because this could have been the conclusion. He said he was going to harm people on the subway, and he likely was going to harm people on that subway.
It's so anecdotal. It's just taking all of these specific experiences and painting it's just, yeah, I've said it already.
Fortunately, there was a Marine there to take care of the circumstance. You don't wait to find out. You don't feel goodness in your heart and sadness for this individual. You protect yourself.
Like maybe in the moment, you wouldn't need to necessarily feel sadness for this individual and feel warm fuzzies in your heart if in the moment your safety is threatened. But overall, if you are in a situation that is safe, you can still participate in ways of harm reduction and feel those warm fuzzies and try to improve the situations of other people. Your safety, I do believe, needs to come first, but you're not. Why are we victim blaming and saying that Ryan was virtue signaling when he was just trying to be a good person? Something Candice Owens does not have experience with, in my opinion.
What should be abundantly obvious: protect yourself. Now, regarding his girlfriend,
I agree, protect
Claudia
yourself.
Morales is her name that you saw in that video, who was the last person that he saw while he was on this earth. Claudia is also an activist. She was a BLM anti-police activist, which is ironic given the fact that they are now asking the police to help them find out who killed Ryan on the streets.
You can still ask for the help of police while still thinking that the structure of police throughout history and even in the present day can be harmful. I do think we need to defund the police. I don't think the police in the way that it is formatted right now is really effectively helping anybody at all. But maybe not anybody. There are ways that the police can be helpful. I do understand that. And they do serve a vital role in society, but not in the way that it's structured right now. I think we need to be funding more things like harm reduction. We need more social services, because if you're putting more money into these social services, you need less physical. Like at this point, the police are just here to like save you, and because they have guns and they can come and like find the people, and they are the people with the law that know all that. But we wouldn't need all of that physical protection if we had more money going into social services. Like, how do you not, if we defunded the police and put it into safe consumption sites and affordable housing, it stands to reason that this individual would not have had the same circumstances, that this situation may not have happened, and you wouldn't need then the help of police. The way that the police are structured right now, that it's all reactionary. They're not like it's kind of our world too. Nobody's out here to help you before the problem. It's only like, oh, well, now that it's already over and the problem has happened, now we can attempt to help you in very not effective ways. If we look at the numbers of the crimes that are actually solved and like people that are actually assisted, why can't we engage in preventative measures instead of doing reactionary things?
Claudia once posted this long message onto Facebook, which was pro BLM. And it ended with this: the police do not protect you. BLM, hope you're on the right side of history.
I don't disagree. It's kind of what I just said. They don't protect you in the beginning. They can only protect you in some kind of reactionary measure. It can be a lot more effective.
Thank you, Claudia, who was referring to protests, participating in BLM protests, pro defund the police. And now, of course, she and Ryan's friends are all looking to the police to try to figure out who committed this heinous act. And it was no doubt a heinous act. It's not something to applaud. It's sad. It is sad to me that people continue to delude themselves about the reality of what is happening in Democrat cities. It is sad to me that these people create videos.
Why is it Democrat cities? You're telling me this would be different in a Republican city? You're out of your gourd.
Trying to help drug addicts, trying to help homeless people, and trying to further delude others into believing that the problem is simply racism. The problem is simply that we do not have enough compassion.
Well, institutional racism is a big reason of why a lot of people face homelessness levels at different rates than other races. But what does she think should happen to all of these people that live on the street? I was literally just in LA about a month ago, and my hotel was in what was called Skid Row. It was not a colloquialism. It was on Apple Maps. I was mortified that that's how that was labeled there. But it was the largest population of people experiencing homelessness in the United States was around there. And what does she think should happen to these thousands of people around the country and around the continent that are experiencing homeless? Like, what is the actual out here? Is she just saying that it should exist in the way that it does and these people shouldn't be helped, or they should be like, sent to Australia to live on the street there? Like, what's the actual out here? If she sees it as a problem, like she clearly does, what's the strategy to get us out?
You should not be an idiot. You should not be an idiot.
Oh, that's...
Do not have so much compassion that you would...
Oh, that's her advice. Don't be an idiot and don't have compassion. Yeah, we know that's what you
yourself think. Into harm's way at 4 a.m. in the morning with a knife-wielding maniac.
Stop victim blaming.
That is not compassion. That is stupidity. So if I sound harsh, oh well. Okay?
Like, you do sound harsh, but I'm not looking for you to like... I don't know. She has a really complicated relationship with criticism. She does not handle it well.
That is a circumstance. If you want to stay alive, you should get a little harsher as well. A big part of getting and staying in shape is eating right.
Like, I get it. You need to put your own self first, but I think a lot of successes in our world have come from vulnerabilities and putting yourself out there in order to empathize with people. She's hawking the red pill or the blue pill. Sorry, red or green. I'm colorblind. No, I'm not. Yeah, because I always run with my... Anyway, it doesn't matter.
All right, guys, now let's get into some of your comments on episodes past.
All right, we got 5 minutes left and we're looking at comments. Let's wrap this up here, Candice.
Comments were pertaining to disciplining children. The age-old question, should we be spanking children? The answer definitively is that when kids were spanked, they became better adults. As I said to you, everyone in
That's not definitive. There is a lot of research that shows that the way that your brain develops after being physically punished like that leads to lower life satisfaction and lower achievement rates amongst children. And it's just, no, how can you even say that? That's just straight up not the truth.
I went around and asked, everyone was spanked, except for this guy right here, the one controlling this camera. He was the only one who didn't get any spankings, and he's bad.
It's like a colloquial example to support what she's saying, which is just fundamentally wrong too. Like, yeah, people were spanked, but they also had an incredible amount of mental health issues, which I am of the opinion that my best guess would be that would be the kind of Jesus. Anyway, I'm sure she was spanked, and she's the image of perfection here is really what I'm trying to say here. My God.
From Tammy says, love this episode, Candice. I have been saying children need more discipline for years. I was born in South Africa, but raised in England with extremely conservative parents. Yes, they did spank on occasion. I wasn't allowed to be roaming the streets or going to parties. School and work was always a priority.
False equivalencies. You cannot be spanked and not be roaming the streets at the same time.
Although I hated it at the time, I am 26 now and look back and I am so grateful to them. All my friends were having sex at 13, doing drugs and drinking.
Again, a false equivalency. You cannot be spanked and also not be having sex at 13.
I hope to raise my children the same way, although I worry with how the world is going that this will be difficult. It is not the norm to have traditional values and boundaries anymore.
Yeah, traditional values being abusing your children. That's what we're going here. It's physical abuse. It's what that is. Ugh.
As a teacher now, I see
no. Oh, God.
Lack of parenting is affecting the future generations. Yes.
I do think a lack of parenting is affecting the future generations, but completely in the opposite way of which that this person, who is this Tammy Mulver, oh, Tammy bestie, we would not get along.
I can only imagine what teachers have to go through or professors have to go through when you see these bubbling babies like I encountered on that college campus. You know, everybody has a feeling, and I don't know why they think that it's the job of their administrators and their teachers and their professors and the people that come to their college campuses to speak, to deal with their feelings.
Yeah, because education is community. Like, education is community. Education is community. You need to be caring about the feelings of the people whom you are leading. How do we not see this? Oh, my God.
Acts very much like toddlers, except actually, no, my toddler son acts way more masculine than the little boys that I see on campus.
No, I'm not.
The Riza writes, the lack of discipline in many homes is astounding. I had a job a few months where I was helping a family with their 2 and elementary level age children. To discipline their children, they used a motivation approach where every single day, both children would receive a gift from Amazon.
Okay, well, I don't agree with that, but I think a motivation model is more effective than the discipline model for sure.
That they used to get them to do their homework or to eat dinner. It was outrageous. The children were allowed to treat me with complete disrespect and went out of their way to do something bad and then blame me for it. Sadly, the parents took the side of the children. I ended up leaving after 2 months. Unfortunately, they are raising monsters who are self-indulgent and will become narcissists. Yep.
Like, sure, that can happen, but that's not a comment about any community as a whole, you Looney Tunes.
You are correct. The idea of giving your child a gift every day to do their homework or to eat their dinner?
Yeah, I would agree. That's pretty nonsensical, and it sets the wrong precedent for motivation. Yeah.
Talk about the inmates running the asylum. What? That is absolutely insane. Yep.
Well, I don't know about the inmates and asylum in the insane comments because that's all. Anyway, I feel like I've said insane, so I can't talk on that. Wow, but look, the one time I agreed with Candice Owens. I don't think it's happened so far, but yeah, somebody write that down, bestie. It's probably never happening again.
Come on. They will go on to become little narcissists that I will have to then encounter on
Yeah, everybody's saying narcissists these days. Take a seat there, Miss Thing.
campuses. I am convinced of that. I will see those kids in a few years. Wife Life writes, I agree with most of what you say, but I would like to share this. I once told my son that he can't hit his brother just because he did something that he did not want him to. And he said, that's what you do. He was 4 years old.
Absolutely.
I quit spanking them as an experiment, and that was 8 years ago. They have not had any more negative behaviors than they did while spanking. You don't have to spank them. You can punish them in other ways that don't physically hurt them.
Yay! Yay! She said Lublock? This is Lubbock. That's a town in Texas. You should know that, Miss Candice.
You're not disagreeing with me. I told you I don't spank my kids. I put them in timeout, my son at least, and it has been tremendously effective. So
I don't know. I feel like I black out for most of this, but I feel like she just talked about how we should be spanking kids. Didn't she just say that like 5 minutes ago? Huh?
see no reason to spank him. When timeout, he acts like he's had acid poured on him when I put him in timeout. You would literally think we were physically beating him. That's how much he hates timeout. So there are effective measures. I think what I have learned from other parents is that every child is different. So it works with one child, doesn't work on another.
Yeah, every child is different, but that doesn't mean because somebody doesn't react to the perceived consequences of a timeout, which is all just mental anyway. What is a timeout? It's just all in how you frame it for your child. But that doesn't mean that if they don't give you a great enough emotional response for you to feel like you've disciplined them effectively enough, it doesn't mean that you keep raising the stakes until it's actually physically hurting them in order to discipline them. That is such a harmful thing to purport.
For me, I would say spankings weren't that effective. I probably think the person that I respected the most, obviously, was my grandfather, and he never laid a hand on me. But for other kids, people feel like they need that discipline, that they need that structure. I'm not here to judge how people are raising their kids, but I will judge you if you're not raising your kids. And I, again, have to encounter them on college campuses crying.
She's...
Last comment.
I don't know. Like, it's not... I don't think I hate her. I don't hate her because I don't know her. I just disagree with pretty much everything she says. But it does seem like she holds a lot of hate for anybody who doesn't agree with her. I mean, she would say the same thing about me in some world that Candice Owens is listening to this, and she's probably not. And if she is, she definitely didn't make it to the end of this video, girl. So like, oh, that's interesting.
Right. There's a point where spanking became ineffective, especially with my sons. I started using push-ups as a discipline tool. Lactic acid built up in the muscle tissue.
No, talk about childhood trauma. Oh, just really keeping the therapy business. Like, this parent is just single-handedly keeping therapists in work. Like, good
wonders for keeping attitudes in check and builds muscle and discipline at the same time. You can't beat it.
Children don't need to be managed. They're not animals that need to be punished, and you don't need to build up lactic acid. If you need to build up the lactic acid in the muscles of your children in order to control them, you're a shitty parent. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. But if you can't actually manage, and I say manage loosely, but if you can't effectively emotionally manage the behavior of your children through words and communication, if you don't have those skills and able to do that, you shouldn't have kids. You shouldn't. I said it.
About the strategy, I like it. The military strategy, making them drop down and give you 20.
Your children should not. It's not. Stop treating your children like that. That is so shitty. Look at that contempt on her face. Nobody should feel like that about their kids.
Good to me. I feel like I would be a good sergeant. And when my kids get older, I'm going to make them drop down and give me 20, even if they don't do anything bad, just because it's good. It's good for people to do push-ups. It builds character.
That's disgusting.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that unfortunately is all the time that we have.
Good God. Okay, besties. Well, that's the end here. I think that we've effectively discovered, or I think we've effectively peeled back the layers here of how awful Candice Owens is and how harmful a lot of her ideologies are. So, besties, if you enjoyed this video here, episode 8 on my series called Dismantling Hate, check out the other 7 videos there in the playlist there. If you're interested in spending more time with me, I have a podcast. I have TikTok and Instagram. The link is in my description. The linky is in the description. So go and become a certified amateur sleuth and find me on all of those places. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for engaging with this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making it to the end. This was a long one here. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you are not. Leave a like, do whatever feels right for you. So thank you again for joining me. I'll see you in episode 9 of Dismantling Hate. And until next time, goodbye. Oh yeah, my nails are done. They look gorgina. It's time for dinner. Bye.